Richmond let his thumb trace the rune on Eleanor's shoulder. One last slow time. Eleanor inhaled sharply and leaned into the contact, a tremor of relief and longing running through her. Her wolf answered in her mind, a low, possessive note that made her whole body feel anchored to him. "Careful, Eleanor," Richmond murmured, his breath warm on her neck. "If I keep this up, I might not stop at your shoulder." "Then don't," Eleanor whispered back, voice small with want and a slight astonishment of how safe she felt being seen. Richmond's gaze held hers, steady and intent. He kept her face gently, and Eleanor found she didn't want to look away. There was a fierce tenderness wrapped through the hunger in his eyes. "Is that what you want?" he asked. She nodded almost without thinking. "Yes," she breathed. "As you wish," he said, quiet as a promise. He moved with restraint and reverence, keeping his touch intimate but careful. Eleanor closed her eyes at the contact held by the closeness, and a soft smile slipped free when he rested his forehead against hers. "You can watch me," Richmond said. "I want you here." Eleanor let her gaze settle on him. She felt everything. The ache of missing him, the rush of being seen. When Richmond leaned in and kissed her, it was urgent but gentle. They broke apart with a quiet laugh and a breath that sounded like relief. Richmond rested his hand lightly at the base of her throat, then closed his fingers around hers, as if to keep her from drifting away. Eleanor slid a small, incredulous smile at him. "You're impossible," she said. He grinned, then he rested his head a moment against her shoulder and breathed in. Eleanor felt a subtle shift. He drew a steadying warmth from her presence, like someone drawing comfort from a hearth. When he straightened, his eyes were softer. The darkness that had clouded them earlier receded. Hazel warmth returned. Richmond released a satisfied exhale, a quiet, oddly domestic sound that broke the tension. Eleanor blinked, startled and relieved all at once. "Still want to go all the way?" he teased, voice low and playful. "We're technically in a hospital." She smiled back, bold in the hush. "This is a private room. We should make good use of it," she whispered. He closed the distance and kissed her again, this time slower, a seal of belonging. They moved to get comfortable, a fumbled attempt to rearrange gowns and layers so they could stay close without drawing attention. When a phone started ringing insistently across the room, Richmond broke the kiss with a frustrated groan and reached for the phone. He answered, voice sharp. "Who the hell is this?" "Is this the Oracle?" The word hit him like a thrown stone. His expression changed from private heat to immediate concern. "Who is this?" he demanded. "This is Genevieve King. The kids are missing." Asher Nightshade was a real killjoy. He'd kicked all three of them out of the bathroom before Roman even had a chance to convince their mate that a romantic shower together was a brilliant idea. Now Violet was in her shower all by herself. Talk about miserable. How was she even supposed to wash her own back? Not to mention, Roman had learned a few massage tricks during his downtime in the Westpac, and he'd been dying to put them to use. He could already picture it. Him, working every last knot from her shoulders while the others helped out. Everyone would have their part to play, but he'd be the one in charge, directing the whole operation. The thought of being captain of that glorious mission was an incredible thrill. But now that masterpiece of teamwork was just a fantasy stuck in his head. Oh well, there'd be plenty of time to make it happen later. He had a feeling they weren't leaving the unseen world anytime soon. Then you had Asher. lecturing them all about staying focused. He didn't trust the Fae or their intentions one bit, as if Queen Isabella would ever hurt her own daughter. Well, scratch that. Considering they all had screwed up parents and been through some seriously messed up stuff, especially Asher, it made sense he didn't give anyone the benefit of the doubt, no matter how beautiful and dreamy Queen Isabella looked. But Roman knew better. His gut told him he and the Queen were kindred spirits. He could trust her. Still, he'd follow Asher's lead, the hypocritical bastard whose eyes were glued to Violet the second she stepped out of the bathroom, right after he'd warned everyone else to keep their heads in the game. Roman felt for his friend, though. He knew how pissed off and insanely jealous Asher had been when the goddess had only completed Griffin's bond with Violet. So yeah, he got it. Their little spa day would just have to wait until Asher got his mark too. But he hoped it wouldn't take too long. Violet was a walking temptation, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could last with that kind of prize dangled right in front of him. Since they couldn't get any action with their mate, Roman made sure all four of them ended up in the shower together. It was a group decision, really. Everyone was fighting to be the first one in, and Roman saw the logic. Whoever showered first got a head start with Violet before the others finished and barged in. Of course, it had all turned into a full-blown argument until the group shower idea came up, which was his genius idea, by the way. And there, in that ridiculously spacious, glimmerful bathroom, Roman tried to put his new massage skills to the test. It did not go well. Alaric zapped his butt and nearly fried his junk, almost electrocuting everyone in the process. The guy had zero chill. As for Asher, his so-called best friend, he shot up a look so lethal that Roman didn't dare bring it up again. When he tried to sneak up on him anyway, the damn hypocrite used his power to make Roman punch himself square in the face. That one hurt, and it definitely broke the bro code. Griffin was the only one who accepted his services, but honestly it wasn't the same. The guy was all hard muscle and bone, not the soft, tempting curves of their mate. With the others threatening to finish their showers first, Roman had to give up on his little experiment. Then it was bedtime. The only problem was there was just one Violet and 4 Cardinal Alphas, and every single one of them wanted to be as close to her as physically possible. Well, technically, that wasn't Roman's problem. Unlike the others, he didn't even bother with pajamas. He just shifted into his favorite form, a sleek, slithery snake. Then he coiled his way onto the bed where Violet was sitting right in the middle, watching them with an amused look, just waiting for them to figure it out. His little mate was wearing a soft purple nightgown that looked like it was spun from clouds. He knew just how soft it was because he'd already glided right across the silky fabric. He looped his cool, scaly body around her neck and rested his head on her chest, which gave him a pretty great view. "Freaking lucky bastard," Alaric muttered when he saw Roman's move. It wasn't the first time he'd pulled this trick, but it still got under their skin every single time. "That still leaves 3 of us," Griffin pointed out. "Someone's gonna have to take one for the team tonight." Asher smirked. "Hey, if you can turn into a giant beast, you think you could shrink down to the size of your ego and save some space?" "Hilarious," Griffin scoffed, flipping him off. Then Asher's expression sobered. "You guys, go ahead. Someone needs to stay awake, just in case we're not as safe here as we think." "What? You think her mom is going to sneak in and chop our heads off while we're sleeping?" Griffin snorted. "We're her mates, dude. Stop being so paranoid." "Well, I'm not her mate yet," Asher muttered. "And I'd rather keep my head attached to my shoulders." "My mother would not chop your head off," Violet said, rolling her eyes. From his perch on her chest, Roman added a soft hiss of agreement. "See, even Roman knows it," she said. "You've only known her for a day," Asher shot back. "No, I'll stay up," Alaric said quietly. Asher looked at him, surprised. "Really?" I've had the most time with her lately, with the mating fever and all, Alaric explained. Besides, that whole incident already knocked me out once today. I'm not going to get much sleep anyway. You don't have to be the one sacrificing for everyone, Asher. If you want to activate the next bond, you need to spend time with her too. Asher's throat tightened, but he swallowed the feeling down. Thank you, was all he said. Alaric just gave him a small smile. With that settled, Asher and Griffin climbed into bed, sandwiching Violet right between them. Good night, Griffin, Violet said, kissing his cheek. She turned to Asher and did the same. Good night, Asher. Then she looked over at Alaric. Don't listen to his nonsense. Come to bed soon, okay? Violet lay back with a happy sigh, but yelped when a certain snake gave her a playful nip right through the thin fabric of her nightgown. She knew what he wanted. She sighed, patting his head. Good night to you too, Roman Draven. So much for keeping watch. Roman Draven's slitted pupils narrowed as he studied the picture-perfect scene before him. Alaric was sprawled across the foot of the bed, dead to the world. Of all the people to pull watch duty, it had to be Alaric, who could probably sleep through a damn earthquake. Griffin, of course, was flat on his back, snoring softly. Meanwhile, Asher, the big paranoid knight who'd sworn Queen Isabella might chop their heads off in their sleep, was also out cold. His arms slung possessively over Violet's waist like she was his personal teddy bear. Typical. A soft hiss of disapproval escaped Roman's lips. Great job, everyone. Outstanding teamwork, he muttered in his serpent tongue. Fine. If no one else was going to bother staying awake, he'd take watch. Not that he minded. He'd been itching to explore their new digs anyway. He carefully slithered off Violet and onto the cool floorboards, pausing in front of the seamless, handleless door. Right. The sentient door that supposedly responded to the needs of the occupant. Roman tilted his head, waiting. Nothing. He let out an impatient hiss. Doesn't it consider snakes occupants? Ugh. With an internal sigh, he shifted into his human form, stretching until his bones popped and the familiar warmth of his skin returned. He waited again. Still nothing. Roman frowned, scratching his head. Open sesame? He tried under his breath. When that didn't work, he shrugged and said a little louder, Open magical door? And just like that, the door swung silently inward. A slow smirk spread across his lips. Of course. Fucking genius. Shifting back into his smaller, more discreet snake form, he slid through the gap before the door could change its mind. The hallway beyond was eerily silent. The fey magic was so thick it was practically humming. A low thrum that made his scales prickle. Every corner he turned was lined with one or two statues. They were all gorgeous sculptures of animals, but something felt off about them. Their carved eyes seemed to follow him, but maybe he was just imagining it. Either way, he wasn't about to test that theory. Getting to the outer grounds was easy, and if the inside of the palace was breathtaking, the outside was on another level entirely. The air was light, fresh, and impossibly clean. Nothing like the polluted smog of his own world. Roman couldn't help but feel a flicker of awe. The moonlight shone on his scales, and fireflies danced around him like living sparks, lighting his path. A sweet perfume hung in the air. Some flowers glowed a soft blue, others pink, and some were so strangely shaped he half expected them to start talking. He slid through the lush foliage, rustling past ferns and something called the bloom, when a new sound caught his attention. Music. At first it was faint, drifting through the trees like a whisper on the wind. Then it grew clearer, a strange, lilting song that pulled at something deep inside him, mingled with the sound of laughter and dancing feet. A party in the middle of the night? Now that was his kind of scene. And just like that, curiosity and a healthy dose of his usual recklessness got the best of him. He slithered closer, gliding through the dewy grass. Leaves brushed against his sides and twigs snapped under his weight as he crept toward the pulsing, colored light in the distance. Roman should have known better. Every instinct he had screamed that this was a terrible idea. Weird glowing lights in the magical forest at midnight? That was a classic recipe for disaster. But the music had a hook in him. It wasn't just a sound, it was a summons. The rhythm worked its way under his skin, wrapping around his mind and tugging gently, like an invisible string. Before he knew it, he was no longer just slithering. He was gliding, pulled forward through the leaves like a moth to a flame. The glow ahead grew brighter, blooming with color and movement. Roman slowed, his serpent eyes wide with curiosity, as he reached the edge of a clearing. There, under the sweeping branches of an enormous tree, the Fae danced. Or at least a kind he had never seen before. They were tiny, hardly longer than his palm, with thin, incandescent bodies. Their wings shimmered under the moonlight as they twirled and swooped with breathtaking grace, their laughter echoing like tiny bells. Their skin shone like polished pearls, and their hair came in every color imaginable. One had fiery red curls that burned like a sunset. Another's was the deep blue of the ocean. A third shimmered in forest green, and the blonde in the middle glowed like bottled sunlight. With every movement, their wings shed trails of glittery dust that hung in the air before winking out like sparks. The music came from nowhere and everywhere at once. A melody so captivating it made his serpent heart pound in time with the beat. It was the most beautiful and dangerous thing he had ever seen. Roman knew he should turn back. Every nerve screamed to him to leave. No human, wolf, or snake had any business getting this close to Fae magic. But the melody only wrapped tighter around his mind, soft and sweet, promising warmth, laughter, and a sense of belonging he hadn't realized he craved. He didn't even notice when one of them stopped dancing. The blonde one tilted her head, her bright eyes glinting with mischief as a smug, knowing smile spread across her face. "What have we here?" Her voice was pure honey, but it sent a chill slithering down his spine. She swooped down, wings slicing through the air, and her sisters followed suit. 4 tiny streaks of light zeroing in on him. He blinked, and the illusion shattered. There weren't thousands of them, just 4. But the magic of their song had made them seem like an army. "Hello there, little snake," the blue-haired one chimed, circling his head with a fascinated hum. "Oh, he's adorable," the redhead cooed, her wide eyes with glee. "Look at those green scales, so shiny." "Where did he come from?" asked the green-haired one, her fingers tracing the air just above his head. "I haven't seen one like him in the royal gardens before. Look at his eyes. They're gorgeous. Can we keep him?" The blue-haired one giggled, clapping her tiny hands together. "He'd make such a cute little pet." Roman twisted in circles, trying to keep up with their darting movements, his serpent eyes flicking from one to the other. Their laughter filled his ears, their wings fluttering so fast it felt like he was in the eye of a glitter storm. "A pet?" the blonde finished, hovering right in front of his snout. Her smile was lovely and deeply unsettling. "Oh, you'd make the perfect one." The others tittered, flying circles around him until his head spun. "Come, stranger," the blonde whispered, her voice as soft as silk. "Eat and drink with us. Dance with us. Forever." That last word hung in the air like a curse. Before Roman could even blink, their tiny, impossibly strong hands seized his scales. Together they lifted him, their wings beating in a perfect, powerful rhythm as gold dust spiraled around them. Roman hissed, thrashing and twisting, but it was useless. The pixies carried him up toward the tree canopy, their sweet laughter echoing around him as the music swelled up into the branches and into whatever glittering madness awaited him in their home. Violet was in heaven. The air around her was a symphony of scents, layers so incredible they felt like music. There were the deep notes of smoked cedar and dark spice, woven through with the sharp sweetness of damp earth after a storm, and the warmth of amber. A soft hint of vanilla lingered beneath it all, as gentle as a lover's whisper. Then came the brighter notes, citrus and pine, like sunlight caught on wood and wind. And finally, a faint, playful sweetness of pineapple and cream, a scent so delicate it was like bottled laughter. She breathed it all until her lungs ached. The sheer beauty of it making her chest feel tight. Every scent was familiar, a thread tied to memories of her mates, her home, her peace. It was so deeply soothing she wanted to lose herself in it forever. With a soft sigh of pure contentment, Violet reached for the person beside her. Leaning into his solid warmth. He was safe. He was home. Then she felt fingers combing gently through her hair, massaging her scalp in a slow rhythm that drew a purr from her throat before she could stop it. Her eyes fluttered open and met the familiar, slitted gray eyes staring back at her. Her breath hitched. Asher's eyes were the kind that could make the moon jealous. They shone with a strange depth, as if layers of silver and smoke were constantly shifting just beneath the surface. His pupils, those narrow black slits, cut through the gray like silk being drawn through liquid metal. Up close, they felt unreal. They held a danger that didn't belong in the mortal world, but it wasn't just danger. There was beauty there, too. A cold, haunting kind of beauty that seemed to look right past her skin and into her soul. Violet's chest rose and fell, her breathing shallow. She was caught in his orbit, unable to look away. There was something so raw and personal in his gaze, sharp and soft, dangerous yet tender, all at once. It was completely unfair how a single look from him could unravel her so completely. She couldn't move, couldn't speak. All she could do was get lost in the stark beauty of his eyes until the rest of the world simply faded to nothing. Asher kept stroking her hair, his fingers slow and deliberate. The motion was so gentle, so soothing. Violet's eyes drifted closed again, and a soft sigh escaped her as she melted into his touch. Neither of them said a word. The silence wasn't awkward, it was a peaceful quiet that said more than words ever could. They just stayed like that, lost in the simple comfort of being together, until sleep gently wrapped itself around her like a warm blanket. Her breathing evened out, and with one last soft exhale, Violet drifted off again. Asher watched her for a long time, his hand never stopping its soft journey through her hair. He felt like he could do this forever. The ache starting in his fingers was nothing compared to the soul-deep terror of ever losing her. He wasn't sure if she had any idea how much she meant to him. She was his entire world, the one thing anchoring him to sanity. If she ever disappeared from his life, he was pretty sure he would just cease to exist. How long would she live? Faye lived for centuries. As a half-Fae, she was guaranteed a long life. And him? The strongest of his kind had lived for maybe 300 years. But he would rather have that single lifetime with her than 1,000 years without her. Asher had never said it out loud to anyone, but he knew with absolute certainty that the day Violet died would also be the day he died. People said mates often gave up on life when their other half passed. He didn't need a mate bond to know his fate was tied to hers. Violet was the reason he breathed. He would protect her if it cost him everything, including his own life. "Sleep well, my purple queen," Asher whispered, his voice so quiet it was barely a sound. His thumb brushed her cheek in a feather-light caress. He leaned down and pressed his lips to hers, lingering for a heartbeat before pulling away. When Asher straightened, his heart nearly leaped out of his chest. Griffin was awake, staring right at him. The look in his eyes wasn't judgmental, just knowing, which was somehow worse. The intensity of that gaze felt like it stripped him bare, exposing every raw nerve he tried to keep locked away. Vulnerability had never set well with him. Griffin finally broke the silence. "Your mate bond will snap into place soon," he said, his voice laced with confidence. "When?" Asher shot back, his own voice sharp with impatience. "In a few years? A decade?" "You're scared," Griffin observed simply. Asher let out a bitter laugh. "When has the goddess ever been fair to me?" "There's a reason for everything," Griffin replied calmly, "and a right time for it. Or maybe she just gets a kick out of torturing me," Asher muttered. "Like my whole life is just one big joke for her entertainment." Griffin's eyes narrowed. "You're not giving up on her, are you?" "Of course not," Asher snapped, his eyes blazing. "Mate bond or no bond, Violet's mine. She has always been mine." "I know," Griffin said. "The boys know it too." "Good," Asher growled, his voice dropping low. "Because if that bond never shows up, and one day any of you get any bright ideas, you'd better be ready to fight me to the death." Their eyes locked, neither man backing down. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Then Griffin's shoulders relaxed. "The prophecy says 4 of us. You might not believe in fate, but I'll hold on to that faith for both of us, Asher Nightshade. Your mate bond is coming, sooner than you think." Asher said nothing, but deep down, in a place he rarely acknowledged, he prayed to every god he didn't believe in that it was true. Violet woke to piercing blue eyes and blinked, surprised. Funny, she could have sworn she'd fallen asleep thinking about slitted gray ones. Still, a wide grin broke across her face. "Well, hello there, handsome," she teased. Alaric looked ridiculously cute with his messy white bedhead, strands falling across his forehead. His cool, crystal blue eyes were as calm as a still lake, and when he smiled, it was soft enough to melt anyone's heart. "Hello to you too, beautiful," he murmured, leaning in to press a kiss to her lips. The kiss was over before Violet even had time to savor it, leaving her blinking up at him with her lips still parted. She wanted more, but Alaric was already slipping out of bed. "No," she groaned internally. Alaric stretched, and Violet's gaze shamelessly followed the line of his body. For someone leaner than the other Cardinal Alphas, he was still built. His pale skin gleamed in the morning light. His muscles rippled with the simple movement. Violet bit her lower lip, her eyes tracing the sharp lines of his shoulders and the curve of his back as it tapered down to a narrow waist. God, it was unfair how someone could look that good just standing there. "Good morning," Griffin's deep voice said, snapping her back to reality. From the teasing smirk on his lips, he knew exactly where her mind had been. He had a towel draped loosely around his neck, steam still clinging to his skin from the shower. Then her gaze drifted lower, and her mind went tumbling right down the rabbit hole. Fuck my life. If Alaric was a cute sin, Griffin was a special kind of sin, pure gluttony. The man was all raw muscle, and she meant that in the most sinful, delicious way possible. I mean, look at him. His muscles weren't just big, they were sculpted to perfection, like something you'd see on a Greek statue. Her eyes followed the line of his broad chest, the faint dusting of hair there, the powerful abs that looked carved from marble, and then that deep, glorious V that pointed like a divine arrow toward the sweet spot hidden by his low-slung towel. Oh, goddess. All Violet could think about was Griffin hauling her off the bed, his huge palms gripping her hips while she climbed his body like a damn tree. The thought sent a rush of heat straight between her legs, forcing her to press her thighs together. What a life, blessed and cursed all at once. Then Asher stepped out of the bathroom, and Violet knew she was a goner. He was also fresh from the shower, and as if the universe just wanted to torture her, he ran a hand through his wet hair, slicking it back before giving his head a little shake. Droplets of water sprayed through the air, looking like they were moving in slow motion as they slid down the hard lines of his neck and traced a sinful path over his chiseled chest. Not even the scars scattered across his skin took away from his appeal. If anything, they just made him look more dangerous, more lethal. Violet stopped breathing completely. Her lungs froze. Her pulse pounded so hard it made her dizzy. And the heat flooding her body was almost unbearable. Goddess, he's beautiful, just like the others. By now, her core was throbbing with a desperate ache. Violet didn't even realize she was holding her breath until Alaric, Griffin, and Asher all turned toward her at the same time, each one inhaling sharply. Their eyes darkened instantly. Yeah, they could smell her wanting them. "Looks like our mate needs a little help. Any of you up for the task?" Griffin teased, his gaze flicking between Asher and Alaric with a knowing smirk. "I'd never say no to that," Alaric said, maybe a little too eagerly, a mischievous glint lighting up his eyes. But Asher wasn't one for words. He moved like a man on a mission. Before Violet could even process it, he was in front of her, his hands sliding around her waist as he lifted her effortlessly. "Sure," she whispered, her voice breaking as he pulled her closer, his touch firm but careful. Then Alaric leaned in, cutting off her next breath with a hard, consuming kiss. Their hands and lips were everywhere, surrounding her, grounding her, and pulling her deeper into a whirlwind of emotion. They didn't stop until she was trembling, breathless, and utterly undone in their arms. Violet collapsed back onto the bed, panting. That was something else. And to think Roman wasn't even here for it. And then it hit her. Where the hell was Roman? Violet figured Roman was in the shower and would be out any second. But even as the last waves of her orgasm faded, a cold knot of dread tightened in her stomach. Something was very, very wrong. Roman would never miss an opportunity like this. Never. This was Roman Draven, for the moon's sake. The same guy who could practically sniff out her arousal from miles away and show up with a shit-eating grin. So where the hell was he? Still breathless, Violet pushed herself up. "Hey, have you guys seen Roman this morning? I thought he was in the bathroom with you." Asher's brow furrowed. "Isn't he usually plastered to your chest?" Violet's gaze dropped instinctively. Her chest was bare, but there was no sign of Roman anywhere. Just to be certain, she scrambled to her feet and stripped off the tangled sheets, giving herself a quick once-over. "He's not on me, is he?" Violet said, spinning slowly so they could confirm she wasn't hiding a certain sneaky reptile. Alaric coughed, his face turning bright red. "No, he's not." He wasn't the only one affected, a dark, smoldering look that settled in Asher's and Griffin's eyes. For a beat, the air in the room went still and thick. Then their gazes collided, a silent acknowledgement of the same sinful thought passing between them. All three men immediately looked away, feigning indifference while subtly adjusting the fit of their pants. This was so not the time. Roman, that little jerk, was missing. They needed to focus. Closing her eyes, Violet reached for Roman through their bond. He was there, alive, but silent, and weirdly, content. What the hell did that even mean? How could he be content? God knows where. Asher's head snapped toward Alaric. "You were on watch last night. What happened?" Alaric raked a hand through his hair. "I don't know. I think I might have nodded off for a minute. But I swear no one came into the room." Asher shot him a sharp look. How can you be so sure if you were asleep? That's assuming someone came in. Griffin cut in, making air quotes. We all know Roman has a habit of exploring. Violet let out a shaky breath. He's not wrong. And Alice mentioned the house is alive, that it responds to what its occupants need. It probably just let him out. Coming from the same Fae who built this house in the first place, Asher muttered, his tone making it clear he thought the house might respond to other visitors too. Okay, so let's assume someone got in, Alaric said. Why take Roman? I mean, no offense, but he's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, or the biggest threat. You are. He jabbed a finger at Asher. A dangerous glint flashed in Violet's eyes, her voice dropping to a low growl. Threat or not, my mate went missing under my mother's roof on my very first night here. Somebody better have some damn answers for me. Just like that, she was moving, storming toward the hall. Even the door seemed to sense her mood, swinging open before she reached it. Her mates followed, their silence tense. They knew someone was about to catch hell. Even if Roman has a habit of, quote, exploring, Asher argued, mimicking Griffin's air quotes, he should be back by now. There's no way that guy would miss a chance to make a move on you this early. How's the mate bond? He's safe and content, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, Violet said, her voice laced with frustration. So he's not in danger, which is a relief. Asher nodded, though he didn't look entirely convinced. We just need to figure out what kind of trouble he's gotten himself into this time. This is the unseen world. Uncharted territory. He went this way, Griffin said, crouching near a corner and sniffing the air like a bloodhound. The scent's faint, but it's him. Yeah, I smell it too, Alaric agreed, straightening up with a flicker of hope in his eyes. So he just wandered off on his own? Violet breathed, her voice trembling. That's not encouraging at all. Like Asher said, this was uncharted territory, and Roman was a walking trouble magnet. The goddess only knew what he'd gotten himself into this time. She just prayed they weren't too late. Good morning, princess, a voice called out. They all turned to see Alice, or Lillerin, or whatever her full Fae name was, striding toward them. She wasn't alone. One of the guards from last night walked beside her, her posture ramrod straight as her eyes sized them up. Violet finally got a good look at the guard. She was tall and broad-shouldered, unusual for a Fae female, who were typically known for their slender, graceful builds. Her long green hair was pulled back in a single thick braid secured with white pins. From the armor she wore and the way she carried herself, Violet knew without a doubt that this woman was a warrior. And just like Violet, the woman was sizing her up right back. Without hesitation, the Fae guard dropped to one knee. My apologies, princess. I should have introduced myself last night. I am Rara, captain of the Secret Service, sworn to protect your mother. And now, you. And I'm her teacher, Alice added smoothly, her voice dripping with a pride that seemed to be fishing for a round of applause. But Violet wasn't smiling. Her voice was pure ice. Good. Then can you tell me where my mate is? Because he's missing, and I want answers now. Both Alice and Rara froze, their eyes darting to each other in alarm. When did this happen? Rara asked, her voice sharp. Sometime last night. Asher answered before Violet could, all business. His gray eyes were locked on Rara, taking her measure. Does the unseen world have anything like, I don't know, cameras we can use to track him? Alice frowned. We don't have such invasive technology here, but the Watchers may have seen something. The what? Violet echoed. Before anyone could answer, a loud crack split the difference. The marble statue of a winged stag next to them fractured, a jagged line splitting it down the middle. Alaric, who was closest to it, practically jumped out of his skin and stumbled back. Right before their stunned eyes, the lifeless sculpture began to move. The stone seemed to melt, peeling away to reveal something impossibly alive beneath. Violet's eyes widened. She'd never seen anything like it. majestic, otherworldly, and far too real to be a myth. For a heartbeat, she wondered if she was hallucinating. But that was only the beginning. In a shimmer of light, the winged stag vanished. A tall fae now stood in its place, proud antlers curving from its head. Then, with a soft rustle, long, dark wings unfolded from his back. He was completely naked. For a second, nobody breathed. Then Asher, Alaric, and Griffin all growled in unison, a perfectly synchronized show of aggression as their fangs descended. Shifter instincts screamed threat, and right now everything in them wanted this unmated bird far, far away from their mate. The male had long, dark hair that flowed over his shoulders, a feature Griffin was instantly jealous of. It framed a sculpted face with a jawline so sharp it looked like it could cut glass. He was built, too, every line of his body defined with a predator's grace. The antlers that curled proudly from his head didn't detract from his looks in the slightest. If anything, they made him seem darker, more mysterious, the kind of dangerous that snags your gaze before you can look away. Then there were the wings, feathers as dark as midnight stretched wide behind him, thick and sharp-edged, like obsidian blades meant to both mesmerize and maim. They looked impossibly strong, like they could wrap around a person and shut out the entire world. The way they framed his muscled form made him look less like a man and more like a fallen god sculpted from sin itself. It was safe to say that until this very moment, the Cardinal Alphas had never once felt inadequate. And it didn't help that the guy, Garrett, reeked of dominance. Power rolled off him in waves, and that could only mean one thing. He was an alpha. It was a primal truth every shifter in the room could smell. A silent challenge that scraped at their instincts and made their wolves pace restlessly under their skin. It also didn't help that Violet was staring at him with wide-eyed fascination, like a kid who'd just found her first shiny toy. Ugly, violent jealousy coiled in Asher's gut, dark and consuming. A dangerous growl tore from his throat, low and guttural, and was instantly echoed by Alaric and Griffin. Their voices merged into a collective rumble that made the very air vibrate. "Eyes off our mate," Griffin snarled, his growl the loudest, like the grinding of metal on metal. But the male didn't even flinch. He just grinned, confident and completely unfazed. "It's your mate who's staring at me, beast." That earned him a unified glare from the alphas, while a mortified Violet flushed bright red. She hadn't been checking him out, not really. It wasn't his body that had caught her attention. It was his wings. Large, graceful, breathtaking wings, just like her own. For the first time, Violet was looking at someone else like her. She'd spent her whole life believing she was one of a kind, and now, there was someone who might actually understand what she was. A strange warmth bloomed in her chest, not attraction, but kinship. "Garrett!" Alice's sharp voice cut through the tension, calling him to order. The winged face smile didn't fade. His gaze lingered on Violet with quiet curiosity, just long enough to make the Cardinal Alphas bristle again. Rara's sharp eyes didn't miss the current crackling between them. Interesting, she thought. Then Garrett dipped his head, his politeness a thin, mocking veneer. "If you're looking for the little green snake, he came through here." At the mention of a green snake, Violet's attention snapped back to him. "You saw Roman?" Garrett tilted his head, his voice as smooth as honey. "The little guy was sneaking around late last night. We kept a close eye on him, Princess." He purred her title like it was a secret just between them, his tone low and teasing. When he said "we," Violet's gaze swept the hall and the realization hit her like a ton of bricks. The statues. They weren't statues at all. Every single one of them was a guard, just like him. No wonder she'd felt so unsettled here yesterday. She'd thought the palace was strangely empty, but now she understood. They were surrounded by guards, all hidden in plain sight. Griffin, Alaric, and Asher exchanged a dark look, the same thought running through each of their minds. They did not like this winged jerk, and the sooner he told them where Roman was, the sooner they could be rid of him. "So where is he?" Alaric demanded, his voice clipped with irritation. Garrett's gaze slid to him, sizing him up with a flicker of amusement. "And why should I tell you, beast? I answer to the princess, and the princess alone." Before her men could explode, Violet stepped forward. "Then answer me," she commanded, her voice ringing with authority. "And you will address my mates with respect. Any disrespect to them is disrespect to me." Garrett's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. "You mean 2 of your mates?" Violet's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" He flicked a dismissive finger toward Asher. "He's not your mate yet. I don't owe him the same respect." "He will be!" Violet shot back, her voice firm. "But until then, he's mine, and you will respect him. I'm not asking, I'm telling you." A beat of silence passed. Instead of pushing, Garrett raised his hands in a gesture of mock surrender. "Anything the princess wants," he murmured, his voice playful but loaded with insinuation. Asher's jaw clenched so hard it ached. He had always prided himself on his self-control, that cold, unbreakable restraint that stopped him from killing first and asking questions later. But right now it was starting to crack. His fingers curled into tight fists as he forced himself to take a slow, steadying breath. This guy was trying to bait him, and for Violet's sake, he wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Not yet. But the jerk had just painted a target on his own back. He'd better watch himself. Garrett finally said, "Your little green snake was taken by the pixies." "Pixies?" Violet repeated, her brow furrowed in confusion. Alice explained, "That's what we call the smaller fae. They're mostly harmless, almost childlike, but they love making mischief with outsiders, and if you cross them, they can get downright nasty." Violet's jaw tightened. "I don't care what they are. I want to know why they have Roman." That teasing lilt returned to Garrett's voice. "Your friend went wandering where he shouldn't have, princess. He fell for their charm. Pixies have a way of luring in those who don't belong." Griffin stepped forward, his patience worn thin. "So how do we get him back?" Garrett tilted his head, pretending to consider it. "Well, about that..." Violet groaned. "What? What is it now?" A bad feeling was already twisting in her gut. "Lesser fae or not, pixies are still respected among our kind," Rara answered. "And as princess of the free fae, they are your subjects. That means you have to learn how to negotiate with them." Asher's head snapped up, his face darkening. "Negotiate?" His voice was laced with disbelief. From what little he knew about the fae, negotiating with them was the fastest way to get yourself tricked, cursed, or worse. He growled low in his throat. "Violet is not negotiating." Garrett's gaze flicked to him. "There are rules in the unseen world, beast," he said, his tone sharp. "Bargaining with the pixie is the only way you're getting your snake brother back." "He's right," Alice added. Asher's glare shifted to her. "You can't be serious." "I am," Alice said smoothly. "But there's something pixies love even more than making deals." That got Violet's attention. "And what's that?" Alice's lips curved into a smile. "Shiny trinkets, enchanted gifts." Any flicker of excitement Violet felt died. Oh, great. And where exactly am I supposed to get my hands on shiny, enchanted trinkets? Rara chuckled softly. "Princess Violet, this is your home. Your mother would never deny you access to her treasures." Violet blinked. "Wait, you mean..." "Yep," Alice said with a knowing grin. "Her jewelry chamber. You'll find more than enough in there to impress the little guys." Violet breathed out a sigh of relief. Maybe being a princess wasn't so bad after all. "Good," Alice said. "Now, just give us a minute while Rara and I get the gifts ready. We'll find those little rascals soon enough." The moment they left, the room seemed to shrink, leaving only Violet, her men, and the winged stag. The tension was so thick the air itself felt like it was heating up. Violet's nose twitched. The air was stifling, so heavy with her mate's scents it was practically choking her. Testosterone rolled off them in waves, a silent, primal contest of dominance that made her stomach churn. "You need to be careful with this deal," Asher said, his voice a low rumble as he stepped so close, his body completely overshadowed hers. "I don't trust a single word those creatures say." It was no coincidence that his broad frame completely blocked Garrett from her view. Violet noticed, but kept her mouth shut. There was no point in feeding their jealousy. "I know," she said, her voice softening. "I'll be careful." She reached for his hand, her fingers lacing with his. "Besides, I've got you with me. You won't let anything happen to me." The knot of tension in Asher's chest loosened. At her words, the insecurity that had been clawing at him ever since they arrived began to fade. Their eyes locked, and for a moment the air crackled with the familiar charge of their attraction. Then Alaric's voice cut through it. "Dude," he said dryly, "can't you get some clothes?" Garrett arched a perfect eyebrow, completely unfazed. "Why? Does my body bother you? Can't keep your eyes off me?" A snarl ripped from Griffin's throat before he could stop it, his jaw tight. He was one wrong word away from strangling the arrogant Fae. He sized Garrett up, lean, tall, sculpted, and snorted. Sure, the guy was fit, but he was all flash, not like Griffin. Griffin had raw power, and in a real test of strength, he knew there'd be no contest. Garrett just tilted his head, that sly grin never leaving his face, clearly enjoying every ounce of tension he was causing. Violet's eyes narrowed. As fascinating as he was, she knew she had to be careful around this one. Fae were tricksters, after all. The tension didn't break until Rara and Alice returned a moment later, saving Violet from having to play referee. Alice carried a small golden box. Violet's eyes immediately locked onto it, her curiosity piqued. "What's in there?" "This," Alice said, holding it up, "is something very precious." She opened the lid slowly, reverently, as if unveiling a holy relic. Inside, nestled on a bed of white silk, lay a string of pearls. Each one shimmered with an inner light, no two the same size or shape. They glowed with their own unique colors, pale blues, faint golds, and deep whites, looking less like stones and more like living things. "It was a gift," Alice explained, "from the Merbeast. They say it was made from the tears of the Sea King's daughter after her first heartbreak. Each pearl is a tear, crystallized by grief and purified by the sea's blessing. It's one of the most beautiful things your mother ever owned." Violet leaned closer, her breath catching. "It's beautiful," she whispered. The necklace seemed to pulse with a faint light, as if it were calling to her. The longer she stared, the harder it was to look away. It gave off a strange, powerful urge to claim it, to protect it, to never let it out of her sight. She reluctantly tore her gaze away. "I feel awful giving away something so precious." Alice scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "That's ridiculous. The Queen has so much jewelry that she doesn't even remember half of what she owns. Trust me, she won't miss one necklace." Rara gave a curt nod. "If the princess waits any longer, the pixies will have their serpent to play with forever." She turned to Garrett. "Lead the way." Garrett gave a theatrical bow. "As you command." He gestured forward. "Follow me." The group set off, stepping out of the hallway and into the bright morning light. The unseen world had transformed with the dawn. What had been eerie and still the night before now brimmed with movement and life. Dozens of creatures bustled through the palace courtyard. They were short, long-limbed figures with wrinkled skin and wide, glassy eyes, all wearing patched tunics made from moss and flower petals. Some carried brooms taller than they were, sweeping up fallen leaves. Others lugged trays of flowers. arranging them into symmetrical patterns that glowed faintly when touched. Violet slowed, watching them, fascinated. "What are those?" "Brownies," Rara explained without breaking her stride. "They keep the palace clean and running. They're efficient, but they can be mischievous if you don't pay them any mind. Leave out some cream for them once in a while, and they'll worship the ground you walk on." Violet nodded, making a mental note. She had a lot to learn about this place. They crossed through a garden where flowers bloomed as they passed, petals shimmering with dew. The air smelled sweet, warm, and alive. Still, the palace walls gave way to a thick forest. Alice took the lead, her steps confident. With a flick of her wrist or a nod of her head, the forest responded. Thorns drew back, flowers bowed, and tangled bushes parted neatly. As if in deference to her, Violet stared in amazement. "How are you doing that?" "Perks of being Fae," Alice said with a grin. "Nature tends to listen when you speak its language." By the time they reached a clearing, the air had shifted again, and there, in the middle of a flower-woven glade, was Roman. Violet froze. Her jaw nearly hit the floor. He was sprawled across a couch made of blossoms, blissfully half-shifted. His scales glittered in the sunlight, and his hair was braided with wildflowers. Dozens of tiny pixies swarmed around him, their wings flickering with shards of glass. Some painted symbols across his chest with liquid gold. Others fed him drops of nectar from flower buds. And a few perched on his shoulders, humming dangerously hypnotic tunes as they braided his hair. Roman's eyes were glazed over with that lazy, dream-drunk look she knew all too well. "Roman!" Violet shouted, storming forward. The second her foot crossed the edge of the glade, she was thrown backward as if she'd slammed into an invisible wall. She landed hard, and the breath was knocked clean out of her. "Ugh, gods!" she groaned, wincing as she pushed herself up. Garrett looked down at her, his expression infuriatingly calm. "Forgot to mention, Princess. You're supposed to knock." "You have got to be kidding me." Garrett tilted his head, a picture of innocence. "Pixies are territorial. They really don't like uninvited guests. Honestly, the barrier was a kindness. It could have just turned you into a toad." "Just great," Violet muttered, brushing dirt from her gown. "Fae etiquette lessons. Exactly what I needed today." Alaric rushed to help her up, while Griffin looked ready to rip the barrier apart with his bare hands. As for Asher, his death stare said it all. Violet sighed, glaring at the lounging serpent and his tiny fan club. "Just you wait, you glitter-covered jerk," she muttered. "I'm coming for you." Garrett walked to the invisible wall and, without hesitating, knocked 3 times. The sound echoed, rippling through the air like a pebble dropped in still water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hum, the barrier shimmered and dissolved. Instantly, a chorus of high-pitched, chirpy voices filled the clearing. "Come in! Come in!" they sang, their words overlapping like wind chimes. "Guests! We have pretty guests!" Garrett smirked, brushing a stray lock of hair from his face with a flick of his wrist. "Guess I'll go first," he said over his shoulder, striding into the glade without a backward glance. Rara and Alice followed right behind him. Violet stood at the edge, her stomach twisting into a knot. She took a deep breath. "I'd do anything for my mate." With that thought, she stepped across the invisible threshold. Violet wasn't sure what she was walking into. The Pixie's home, she'd pictured something, some kind of structure, anything to show they'd crossed into Fae territory. But the moment they stepped through the shimmering barrier, nothing changed. It was just more forest. If anything, it seemed like the Pixies hadn't built a kingdom so much as just claimed a chunk of the woods for themselves. And smack in the middle of it all was Roman, sprawled on a couch made of living blossoms, looking entirely too comfortable, like he'd just been crowned their king. Violet had to fight the urge to march right over and drag him off that flowery throne herself. But it was all too easy. And if the Fae had taught her anything, it was that nothing was ever that easy. There had to be a ward, some kind of trap just waiting for her to make a dumb move. She wasn't an idiot. If she wanted Roman back in one piece, she had to be smart about this. And if that didn't work, well, she'd just have to wipe them from existence. She clung to that thought, a little promise to herself. Thankfully, she didn't have to wait. The pixies were suddenly all around them. Blurs of color and laughter, leaving shimmering trails of golden dust in their wake. On any other day, Violet might have found them adorable, with their tiny, mischievous faces and bright, curious eyes. But today, all she saw were tiny predators with claws made of glitter. Alice was the first to speak. "Show your respect to the princess." A chorus of gasps and squeals erupted. A dizzying harmony of overlapping voices that made Violet's head spin.
"Oh, look at her!"
one exclaimed, clasping her tiny hands.
"The princess of two worlds finally graces us!"
Another zipped right by her ear.
"Her hair, it's black, but oh, it's purple at the tips. I heard she plucked it right out of the night sky." "That's ridiculous,"
a third chimed in, her voice like tinkling bells.
"I heard she's half beast. Does she snarl when she's mad? Go on, princess, show us your fangs."
The rest giggled. A maddeningly charming sound as they swooped and spun in a blur.
"She doesn't look like a beast,"
a pixie with coral hair observed.
"More like a doll, a soft one. But fragile things break so easily,"
a blue-winged one whispered, a hint of fake innocence in its voice as it brushed past Violet's cheek. Their high, rapid-fire voices piled on top of each other until Violet couldn't track who was saying what. They didn't take turns. They sang over one another, their curiosity so aggressive it felt like an assault. It hit her then. They weren't scared of her. They thought she was fragile. Her? Fragile? Oh, hell no. The instant a cluster of them got too bold, flying right up in her face, Violet bared her teeth, flashing the very fangs they were so curious about. The effect was instantaneous. The pixies let out a series of dramatic shrieks, their high-pitched squeals echoing as they scattered in a panic. Wings beating furiously, they clung to each other, faces scrunched up in a comical terror before zipping behind Roman, as if he could actually protect them. One of the pixies peeked out from behind his leg and whispered,
"She really does have fangs."
A low growl rumbled from behind her. Asher. Without even thinking, she could feel the tension rolling off him. His body coiled like a spring. The slight shift in his stance told her he was done playing games. She needed to get this under control before the puppet master took over. That never ended well. Drawing herself up to her full height, she announced, "I am Violet, your princess, and I'm here for the mate you stole."
"Stole?"
a tiny gold-haired pixie asked. Flying so close, her glow illuminated Violet's face.
"He came to us. We just kept him. He's so much fun."
The pixie's smile was all sugar and sharp edges.
"But if you want him back, princess, it's going to cost you."
She giggled as if she were offering a special treat. Violet's glare could have cut glass. It sliced right through the pixie's giggling. She wanted nothing more than to snatch the little creature out of the air and shake some manners into her. But this was Fae territory. You played by their rules. So she kept her hands at her sides, forcing the fire in her eyes to cool into a slow, dangerous calm. "I know," Violet said, her voice dripping with false confidence. "That's why I came to make a trade." The gold-haired pixie instantly perked up, her wings flaring with excitement.
"A trade? I love a trade. So do we,"
the others chirped, their high musical voices tumbling over each other.
"We love a trade."
Violet let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Okay, so far so good. Alice stepped forward and carefully opened the golden box. The moment the lid lifted, the air itself seemed to hum. A ripple of gasp went through the pixies. The gold-haired one clapped her hands over her mouth, her eyes shimmering with awe as others who flew closer nearly fainted midair.
"It's beautiful,"
one breathed.
"No, it's divine.
another cried out. They swarmed the box like bees, their wings shedding tiny golden flakes. The pearls reflected in their wide, glittering eyes, like twin moons in starlit pools. A few reached out, trembling tiny hands desperate to touch. Just take it already, Violet thought, her patience stretched to a razor's edge. She was so sick of this, so close to snapping. Just as the gold-haired pixie reached for the necklace, she slammed the box shut. Violet flinched. "What was that for?" she demanded, her frustration boiling over. The pixie's lips curved into a smug little smile.
"You're offering the Queen's gift. That's something of your own. That costs you nothing."
"What?" Violet's voice cracked with disbelief.
"Perhaps,"
the pixie added, her voice oozing with sick satisfaction,
"we can make this simple. You can have your mate by day, and we'll take the serpent at night. We just adore that cute little serpent, you know?"
That was it, the last straw. Violet's nostrils flared, fury, a white-hot burn just under her skin. Her magic coiled inside her, begging to be unleashed. Behind her, Asher, Alaric, and Griffin were right there with her. The air crackled, thick with their growls as thunder ripped across the sky. "Why are we even talking?" she thought. "We could just crush these little pests." But then something clicked, an idea. Her expression shifted, the rage melting away into a slow, dangerous smile. "You're right," she said. The gold-haired pixie blinked, startled.
"I'm right?"
"Yes," Violet replied smoothly. "We'll make that trade." Her mates erupted behind her. "Violet! Absolutely not!" Asher grabbed her arm, his eyes blazing. "Don't even think about it." Violet turned to him, her voice low but firm. "Trust me." It wasn't a question. Asher's jaw was a hard line. He hated this. But as he looked into her eyes and saw that familiar, fierce spark of a plan, he let out a slow breath and released her arm. "Fine," he muttered, his voice dark. "But if this goes south, I'm burning this whole damn forest to the ground." Violet's smile deepened. "Fair enough." Garrett whispered from behind her. "Don't offer your blood. They crave powerful things." "I've got this," Violet murmured back.
"So what is it, Princess?"
the gold-haired pixie asked eagerly.
"What are you trading?"
Violet smiled sweetly. "You can have a piece of him, to keep, forever." The pixie gasped, her whole body lighting up as her wings fluttered manically.
"A piece! A piece! A piece!"
the others shrieked, spinning through the air like giddy children at a fair. "Yes," Violet said, her tone as confident and sweet as honey.
"Deal!"
The golden pixie squealed, her grin stretching from ear to ear. "Deal," Violet echoed, her own smile curling into something much, much sharper.
"What part of him do we get to keep?"
The pixie pressed, practically vibrating with anticipation. "This." Violet strode over to where Roman was draped over the blossom couch, still lost in his enchantment. Without a flicker of hesitation, she leaned down and plucked a single green hair from his head. "Ow!" Roman yelped, blinking in a daze. Violet held the strand up between two fingers. "There," she said, her voice dropping the sweet act and turning to ice. "You can keep what you love." Her eyes were flinty. "And I'll take what's mine." For a heartbeat, the grove was dead silent. Then the pixies erupted into loud, wailing sobs that were both tragic and completely ridiculous. Golden dust rained down as they cried, clinging to each other like toddlers who'd just dropped their ice cream. Behind her, the tension finally broke. Asher, Alaric, and Griffin all let out breaths of relief. "She's Fae, all right," Griffin murmured, a smirk playing on his lips. Finally, the golden pixie sniffled, wiping at her face with tiny fingers.
"You have a clever tongue for a half-breed,"
she admitted grudgingly.
"You may take your serpent."
Roman, now free from the spell, stumbled to his feet. "You traded a piece of me?" he croaked, looking woozy. "Relax, drama queen," Violet shot back. "You've got plenty more." Before he could complain further, Griffin swooped in and hauled him over his shoulder like a sack of grain. Let's go, Your Highness, before they change their minds and ask to keep your scales. As they turned to leave, the pixies swarmed after them, tossing glittery dust like confetti. One of them even yelled,
"Come back soon, shiny snake!"
Roman groaned from his perch on Griffin's shoulder.
"Over my dead, sparkly body."
Roman gagged, his body lurching as he threw up for the third time. He heaved and groaned. His arms wrapped around the toilet bowl like a life raft, trying to ride out whatever curse the pixies had slipped him.
"I think I'm gonna die,"
he moaned, his forehead pressed against the cool porcelain.
"You're not dying,"
Griffin said, giving his shoulder a sympathetic pat.
"Just maybe lay off the strange midnight parties for a while."
From the corner, Alaric, who was supposed to be on moral support duty, just snorted.
"Yeah, laugh it up,"
Roman muttered, rolling his eyes.
"Hey, be grateful it's not coming out the other end,"
Alaric said dryly. Roman opened his mouth to fire back, but another wave of nausea had hit him, lurching over the toilet again. He started hurling so violently that Griffin winced. On the bright side, the noise would definitely keep the serpent from creeping out of its hiding place. Unseen by the guys, Violet had witnessed the whole pathetic display. She slipped back into the living room, where Asher was facing off with Alice and Rara. He stood ramrod straight, his slitted eyes as cold and sharp as glass. "What's happening to him?" Violet demanded.
"The enchantment's wearing off,"
Alice explained.
"His body's rejecting it."
"Rejecting what?"
"Nectar,"
Rara supplied.
"Nectar?"
Violet's frown deepened. Alice sighed.
"Basically pure sugar. The Fae have a hell of a sweet tooth."
"And pollen," Rara chimed in. "Plus whatever magic dust they probably sneezed in it. He might be supernatural, but his body wasn't built to digest food from this realm."
"Food,"
Asher cut in, his voice flat.
"I'm guessing you plan on feeding us at some point."
"There's a hex that'll allow you to eat our food. It'll also help you resist fate charms."
"Really?"
Asher scoffed.
"And what kind of strings come attached to this hex? Anything you could use to, say, pull on me later?"
Rara shot Alice a look that screamed, "Seriously? Where did you find this guy?"
"It's for your own protection,"
Alice said, her patience clearly thinning.
"So you don't end up like Roman."
Asher's eyes narrowed.
"And I'm just supposed to take your word for that?"
Alice let out an exasperated sigh.
"You think I dragged you all the way to the unseen world just to mess with your head? I could have left you to rot back there, you know, especially since you're not even mated to Violet."
That hit a nerve. Asher's jaw locked, his lip curling back in a snarl. But Alice just met his aggression, baring her own teeth, long and sharp and undeniably fey. The air crackled between them. In an instant, the sweet-faced girl was gone, replaced by something ancient and dangerous. "All right, that's enough," Violet snapped, stepping between them before it could escalate. She reached for Asher's hand, her fingers brushing his before closing firmly around it. He went rigid, but she held on, silently pulling him away from the others and toward a quiet corner of the room. "Asher," she started, turning to face him. "I get it. I know why you're pissed. You're out of your element. This isn't your world, and you don't trust any of them, not one bit." His eyes shot to where Alice stood, his whole body still bristling with aggression.
"You're damn right I don't trust them. Any of them. Not even your mother,"
he said flatly, his gaze locking with Violet's.
"The devil himself can look like an angel."
Violet's mouth fell open, but Asher wasn't done.
"That hex could have anything tied to it, and we'd be clueless. What happened to Roman is proof of that."
Instead of taking offense, Violet just nodded. "Exactly. Look what happened to Roman. Asher's jaw tightened.
Roman happened because he can't keep his ass in one place. He wanders right into trouble and brings it home like some kind of screwed-up souvenir.
And what if next time it's you, or Griffin, or Alaric? Violet pressed, her voice gaining an edge. We're not going to be here forever, but we're here now. You know what they say about the Fae? They're masters of glamour and charms. We're at a huge disadvantage just by breathing this air. Asher folded his arms, but his silence told her she had his attention. What if it's not pixies next time? She pushed. What if one of you ends up in the clutches of something worse? A Fae who knows exactly what they're doing? Remember Baron? His jaw worked at the name. We have no idea what he's capable of, Asher. You can't stand there and tell me that doesn't scare you. And even if my mother is the devil, she's a devil who wants me alive. Asher's mouth opened, then closed, the fight draining out of his eyes. He swallowed hard.
I didn't mean it like that.
No, it's okay, Violet said, her voice softening. Not asking you to trust her, but maybe just this once you could try listening to her. I'm just one person, Asher. I can't protect all of you all the time. You guys need some kind of defense in this world. Asher sighed, running a hand through his hair.
Fine,
he muttered at last.
Thank you.
Relief flooded her voice.
But,
Asher added,
if this hex makes me start craving dandelions or singing show tunes in my sleep, I'm killing them all.
Violet snorted. You know, I think I'd pay to see that.
Violet,
he growled, the threat playful. She just laughed. All right, it won't happen. And no murdering anyone, you big bloodthirsty animal, she teased, leaning in to kiss him. What started as a simple kiss quickly deepened, turning desperate. A pointed cough from Alice shattered the moment. Violet pulled back, breathless and flushed. Asher didn't bother hiding his annoyance, shooting a glare at the Fae.
Well?
Alice asked, one eyebrow raised.
We'll do it,
Asher clipped out.
But I want to speak to the Queen. I have my own questions.
You'll have your chance at breakfast,
Alice told him.
Important discussions in the unseen world are usually held over a meal.
Asher held her gaze unflinching.
Fine, then do it.
Asher's loyalty was something else. The second Alice finished explaining the hex, he stepped forward without a second thought.
Try it on me first,
he said, his voice firm.
If I'm still standing after breakfast with the Queen, then the others can get it.
Violet opened her mouth to protest, but he cut her off with a look that made it clear this wasn't up for debate. She snapped her mouth shut, her fingers tightening around his. He squeezed back, a silent promise. Honestly, Asher had been expecting some big ritual, maybe a priest chanting something out of a B-list horror movie. Instead, Alice just stepped closer.
Hold still,
she murmured. She whispered a string of soft, ancient words, her breath warm against his skin. A strange tingle traced a path beneath it, like a veil being draped over him from head to toe. The hairs on his arms prickled, then settled. Just like that, the sensation vanished, leaving only a ghost of a touch.
That's it?
He asked, flexing his hand. He'd secretly been bracing for a little pain, maybe even looking forward to it.
That's it,
Alice confirmed.
This should weaken any glamour, protect you from charms, and allow your body to process our food. If anything feels off, tell me immediately.
It won't, Violet whispered, a prayer under her breath. Her eyes were still glued to Asher, searching his face for the slightest hint of a problem. He rolled his shoulders.
I'm good.
Good, let's go.
Griffin and Alaric stayed behind to babysit Roman and, let's be real, each other, while Roman loudly paid the price for downing pixie nectar. Asher and Violet followed Alice and Rara down the central corridor. where the vines snaking along the walls seemed to rustle and whisper as they passed. They were led into the breakfast hall, and it felt like walking into dawn itself. The room was long and airy, with a domed ceiling laced with trailing ivy and panes of colored crystal that fractured the sunlight into soft stripes across the floor, painting it in shades of blue and green. The floor was smooth stone, but it was surprisingly warm beneath their feet. Instead of sharp, straight lines, tables curved along the walls in graceful arcs. Apparently, the Fae weren't big on corners. Each table was draped in a cloth that looked as if it were spun from mist. At the head of the room, on a dais of polished whitewood, stood a narrow, elegant table. Queen Isabella rose the moment she saw them. "Daughter," she called, her voice echoing softly. Violet's breath hitched. The queen was as flawless as ever, dressed in a gown the color of sunlight on a river, a delicate golden circlet crowning her head. Her long braided hair fell like a silken banner down her back. She crossed the space between them with a pace that seemed unhurried, but brought her to Violet in a blink. She took Violet's hands in both of hers, her eyes shining with pure delight. "Mother," Violet breathed, the word feeling more natural on her tongue than it had the day before. Queen Isabella lifted her gaze to Asher. "Alpha Asher," she greeted, her smile genuine and soft. The respect in her tone caught Asher off guard. Since they'd arrived, everyone had called him Beast, like he was some stray dog. Maybe the queen was different. No. He shut that thought down fast. She wasn't winning him over that easily. So he gave her a nod, respectful but not dismissive.
"Your Majesty."
"Come," the queen said, gesturing to the head table. "Let's eat and talk." Violet kept her fingers laced with Asher's as they climbed the few steps to the platform. They all sat, Violet taking the seat between him and her mother. "I heard about the trouble last night," the queen began. "I'm sorry your first hours here were so eventful." Asher didn't bother to sugarcoat it.
"Your pixies don't seem to have much respect for their princess."
"The Free Fae are not exactly welcoming to outsiders. They aren't open to much of anything, really," Queen Isabella said, her words surprisingly blunt. "In time, they'll warm to her. To all of you." Violet let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding, the tension in her chest easing slightly. "I'll hold you to that." The hall began to fill with motion as servants entered with platters of food, each more strange and beautiful than the last. Bowls of thick cream were swirled with honey. Trays of sliced fruit held familiar peaches, figs, and berries. But they sat beside fruits Violet had never seen before. Ones with skin like spun glass that hissed a sweet steam when pierced. There were herbs with dew still clinging to their leaves, roots roasted to a perfect sweetness, and round loaves of bread whose crust cracked to reveal a tender, fragrant crumb. A carafe poured what they called starlight milk, and another held something pale green that smelled of mint and pear. And then there were thin, seared slices of meat with a dark glaze, nestled beside bowls of gemstone jellies. Asher's eyebrows shot up.
"I didn't think Fae ate meat."
"Some do," Isabella said, breaking off a piece of bread and placing it on Violet's plate. "Some are vegetarian. Some follow a stricter path. We are a diverse people, not a monolith. We have this very same argument at tables just like this one." Asher picked up a slice of the seared meat, rolling it between his thumb and forefinger.
"Seems odd,"
he mused.
"A people who claim to live in harmony with nature, killing other living things for food."
He wasn't being polite. He was testing her, trying to see past the regal smile. Queen Isabella met his challenge without so much as a blink. "We maintain a balance," she said calmly. "We don't hunt for sport, we don't waste, and we do not murder. When it is necessary, the animals are offered up. and they are sent on with peace and prayer. We aren't strangers to death here. We treat it as a part of life, not as entertainment."
"So,"
Asher said, a sharp edge in his voice.
"You're all just gentle killers."
Across the table, Violet coughed into her cup and shot Asher a look that screamed, "Do not start a fight over breakfast." Isabella didn't flinch. She laughed, a light, clear sound with no venom in it. "If that's the term you wish to use," she said, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "You have your doubts about me, Asher Nightshade. That's smart. But make no mistake, everything I am doing is to keep my daughter safe." Asher wasn't buying it for a second. Henry had said the same thing. "I'm only doing what's best for you." Right before he'd broken him.
"You mean the same daughter you left powerless in the human realm?"
Asher asked, his gaze locked on hers, unflinching. The Queen's composure cracked. The polite warmth in her eyes evaporated, replaced by a chill that seemed to shrink the entire hall. Violet didn't even realize she was doing it, but her own aura began to shift, dark magic coiling inside her, ready to defend Asher. Isabella might be her mother, but she was still a queen, and Asher was crossing a line. This was supposed to be her conversation. Sure enough, a storm gathered in the Queen's gaze. Her aura pulsed, mirroring Violet's, and a dangerous glint flashed in her amethyst eyes. Isabella's voice trembled with rage, held on a tight leash. "You think I was happy to leave my daughter in the human realm?" There was no softness left in her voice, only fury and pain twisted together. But Asher didn't flinch, not even as the air grew thick with power, prickling against their skin like 1,000 needles.
"I'm not blaming you for the circumstances,"
Asher replied evenly.
"But from what I've pieced together, Alice found Violet months ago, maybe even earlier."
He let the implication hang in the air. Alice hadn't told her everything.
"That was more than enough time to train her, to get her ready for what was coming, especially since you knew what kind of husband you had. Maybe then Baron wouldn't have nearly killed her during her dream walk."
The words hit their mark. For a split second, Isabella's mouth fell open, pure guilt flashing in her blazing eyes. Just like that, the oppressive weight of her magic eased. Even Violet, who'd been sitting ramrod straight and gripping her spoon so hard her knuckles were white, managed a shaky breath. The suffocating tension shattered, leaving a residue of guilt and shame in its place. The fire in the Queen's eyes dimmed, softening into sorrow. For the first time, Violet didn't see the immortal ruler of the Fae. She saw a mother who had made impossible choices and was now being forced to answer for them. Asher saw it too, but unlike Violet, he wasn't about to let emotion dull his protective instincts. "I made a foolish choice," Isabella admitted. She was staring right at them but seeing something far away, lost in a memory he'd just dredged up. "I was scared to leave Violet with powers Angus could exploit, but I was just as terrified that unlocking them would draw him to her like a moth to a flame." Her focus snapped back, pinning Asher to a seat. "But you dare to judge me. You, who haven't walked a single day in my shoes." She paused, her voice low and raw. "Every single night, I have cursed the bonds that chained me to 2 wretched men, while my daughter grew up without me. Do you have any idea what that's like, Wolf? To watch your child from afar, unable to go to her, because every step you take puts her in more danger." This time she studied Asher with an unsettling intensity, as if she could see every secret he held. "You chase perfection. You crave control.
But you forget, Asher Nightshade, that life is anything but perfect.
Asher shifted in his seat, visibly uncomfortable. He hated being analyzed, and right now the Queen was holding him under her gaze like a specimen under glass.
So tell me,
she said, her voice softening to a near whisper.
Haven't you ever made a mistake? Not one?
Asher didn't have to answer. Violet already knew. Thea. The name was a ghost in the air between them. He'd been a puppet master, playing games with her life, pulling strings until one of them snapped. His need for control had nearly gotten her killed. It had ruined her. Violet hadn't forgotten, and neither had he. The memory hit him like a physical blow. She saw him flinch. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Queen Isabella lifted her goblet, paused, and said,
But you must protect her as fiercely as you challenge me, Wolf. The day will come when she needs someone who isn't afraid to stand up to anyone, even a queen.
With that, she took a slow sip of her pale green drink. Asher was speechless. Violet took the opening, desperate to steer them onto safer ground.
How long am I supposed to stay here?
Queen Isabella was about to answer when her nostrils flared. A second later, her eyes sharpened, locking on something straight ahead. Violet and Asher turned at the same time. A low growl rumbled in his chest, a perfect match to the ice that shot down her spine. There are some eyes you never forget. She'd seen them before, through Alice's eyes in the dream realm, but this was different. Now she was seeing them for herself. A stunning forest green that could pull you in without even trying. But Violet knew better. Those eyes were pure poison. Baron might be handsome on the outside, but he was rotten to the core. He strode toward the dais with an arrogant smile, the kind of smile that said he already owned the world and everyone in it. Asher's glare shot to the Queen, his voice dripping with venom.
What is he doing here?
That seemed to snap Isabella out of her trance. Before Baron could reach the table, thick, thorny vines snaked out from the walls, twisting together to form a living barrier in front of him. Baron just laughed.
Is this any way to welcome me, my queen? In front of our daughter? Violet is not your daughter,
Isabella hissed, her voice like steel.
Not by blood,
Baron conceded, his tone mocking.
But by the laws of our people she is. You're my wife. That makes her my daughter.
The Queen didn't move, but her silence was all the encouragement he needed. He smirked.
All right, then,
Baron said, tilting his head.
If you won't let me greet my daughter properly, I suppose I'll just have to visit her later, on my own.
Isabella's eyes widened at his audacity. The threat was clear. The vines slithered back into the walls as quickly as they'd appeared. Baron stepped forward, his victory oozing from every pore. He took his time joining them at the table, pulling out a chair and sitting down with a smile. Completely unfazed by the 3 pairs of furious eyes locked on him. Then he turned to Violet, his smile stretching even wider.
We finally meet, daughter.
Most villains don't see themselves as the bad guy. The real dangerous ones, though, they know exactly what they are, and they love every second of it. And one of them just happened to be her mother's husband. Or, to be more precise, her stepfather. The word itself made Violet cringe. The idea of a father had once held a certain appeal, but now, her family tree was just a complete disaster.
Oh, hell no.
Violet's stomach dropped. She already had 1 psycho for a father. 2 was definitely pushing it. But damn, her mother really knew how to pick 'em. Fine, if he wanted to play games, she'd play right back. can't say the feeling's mutual, Baron. Violet shot back, her voice pure ice. Instead of taking offense, Baron just threw his head back and laughed, as if this were all just some grand performance put on for his amusement. Meanwhile, Asher, who'd been watching silently from the sidelines, was sizing up the Fae Queen's husband with cold, calculating eyes. "You're the all-powerful Fae Queen," he said finally, his voice low. "And yet you can't get rid of him." Before the Queen could even think of a reply, Baron's focus snapped to Asher, their gazes locked, and in that instant, Asher unleashed his compulsion. "Leave us." Usually his targets would get a vacant, glassy-eyed look in seconds, their will bending to his. But Baron didn't so much as blink. If anything, he just looked amused, as if he was actually debating whether to humor the command. Then recognition dawned on his face. A smug grin spread across his lips, his eyes glinting with malicious delight. "You," he said, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "You're the wolf with the mind-bending gift." Baron let out another loud laugh. "Your little parlor trick might work on lesser beings in the human realm, but you should know that here, most high Fae are immune to that sort of thing." Violet watched the color drain from Asher's face, his jaw clenching in disbelief. His compulsion was his ace in the hole, the one power he could always count on, and Baron had just swatted it away like a fly. "And that," Baron continued smoothly, "brings me to my next question. How is our daughter preparing for her trial?" Violet and Asher both went rigid. "What trial?" they demanded in unison. If looks could kill, the glare Isabella was shooting at Baron would have reduced him to a puddle on the floor. She rubbed her forehead, her jaw tight. "I was going to tell you after breakfast," she said through gritted teeth. "But apparently, someone here just loves to stir up unnecessary drama." "That doesn't sound like unnecessary drama," Asher shot back, his defenses flying up. He should have known better than to trust her. "Exactly," Baron chimed in, looking far too pleased with himself. "We all want our daughter to succeed in the trials, don't we?" "Could you just shut up?" Violet exploded. Flames erupted from her palms, roaring straight for Baron. He didn't even flinch. He just waved a dismissive hand, and the fire vanished, snuffed out as if he'd stolen the very air around it. Violet didn't know what was more terrifying, the fact that he could control air, or the effortless ease with which he'd done it. He was skilled, very skilled. "You have raw power. I'll give you that, but it's completely untrained," Baron said, sizing her up with a critical eye. "You get flustered far too easily, and you have a temper. At this rate, you don't stand a chance in the trial of ascension. Still, there might be hope for you. If I trained you, I could make something of you." "Yeah, over my dead body," Violet spat, her mind racing to figure out his angle. "I'll kill you if you get within an inch of her." Asher swore, his eyes glowing with a dark promise. He didn't care if the Fae was stronger. He'd find a way to get the job done. It was just one Fae against 4 Cardinal Alphas, after all. Baron just snorted. "It would be fun to watch you try." He was clearly savoring the fact that his life was magically bound to the Queen's. If Asher killed him, the Fae Queen would die too. Then he rose and turned to his wife. "I'll speak with the High Fae Court. I'll convince them to move up the date. The sooner our princess is approved, the better. She'll command far more respect then." Isabella's hands clenched into fists, her knuckles turning white. Her fury only made Baron's smile widen.
Better get a move on with her training. Chop chop.
His goal of ruining everyone's morning achieved. Baron pushed his chair back, stood, and said cheerfully,
Enjoy your meal. We'll be seeing each other again.
With that, he strolled out of the hall, whistling a jaunty tune. They all watched him with burning intensity until the heavy doors swung shut behind him. The second he was gone, Asher spun on the Queen, his eyes flashing with rage.
I should have known you wouldn't drag Violet into the unseen world unless something was up. A damn trial? Are you kidding me? She knows next to nothing about the Fae or her powers. You just saw what happened.
He yelled, gesturing wildly at Violet and the spot where Baron had so casually extinguished her fire.
He's strong,
Violet murmured, still shaken.
Terrifyingly strong.
Asher ignored her, his focus locked on Isabella.
And what does he mean, move up the date? She's not ready! And why can't you get your own husband in line? You're the damn queen!
Isabella groaned, pressing her fingers to her temple.
Ever since news of Violet's existence got out, the realm feels betrayed. I told you, the Free Fae do not mix with outsiders. And I, their queen, broke that sacred rule.
I'm not looking for excuses,
Asher hissed.
I'm telling you to fix this.
There is no fixing it,
Isabella said, her voice hardening with regal authority.
Violet is my heir. To claim that title, she must prove her worth before the High Fae Court. The trial of ascension is tradition. It's the only way for her to be recognized as my daughter.
For a long moment, Asher and the Fae Queen just stared each other down, the tension in the hall crackling between them.
And what if Violet doesn't want to be your heir?
Asher finally asked.
What?
The Queen's voice was laced with genuine disbelief, as if the concept was completely alien to her. The next thing Violet knew, 2 pairs of powerful eyes were staring right at her.
Oh no. Hell no.
But it was too late. Queen Isabella turned to her, her eyes narrowing just a fraction.
You don't want to rule, Violet?
Two pairs of eyes pinned Violet in place. Her mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out, like a fish gasping for air.
Violet,
her mother pressed, her voice smooth but firm.
Don't you want to be my heir?
Violet tried to answer, but her voice caught in her throat. The words were a tangled knot she couldn't undo. A single bead of sweat traced a path down her temple as her pulse hammered a frantic rhythm against her eardrums. Suddenly, the chair felt like an interrogation hot seat, and the air was too thin to breathe.
Violet?
Asher's voice cut through the haze, laced with concern. His brow was knitted, his hand twitching at his side as if fighting the urge to reach for her. He knew something was wrong. Violet Purple had never believed in panic attacks. She'd always been the strong one. Panic, to her, was a weakness. But now, caught between Asher's slitted, inhuman gaze and her mother's piercing amethyst eyes, both weighing on her with the crushing expectation of her destiny, a wave of pressure slammed into her chest. With a loud scrape of her chair, Violet shot to her feet. The walls seemed to be closing in. She stumbled back, her breath catching in ragged hitches. She needed air. She had to breathe. Something was choking her. Asher was on his feet in an instant.
Violet!
Queen Isabella rose too, her voice tight with alarm.
Violet, are you all right?
But Violet couldn't answer. Her eyes darted wildly around the room, unfocused, as raw panic clouded her vision. A roar filled her ears, drowning out their voices as if she'd plunged deep underwater. She clutched at her chest, her heart threatening to beat its way out of her ribs.
I think she's having a panic attack,
Asher yelled, his voice sharp with fear. except it was more than that. Dark, shadowy tendrils began to coil around her, forming a protective dome as the air thickened, humming with unstable magic. Veins darkened under her skin, pulsing with a raw power that was too much for her fragile control. When Violet staggered against a pillar for support, it exploded into a cloud of dust the moment her hand made contact. Asher lunged for her, but Queen Isabella grabbed his arm, yanking him back. "Don't!" she warned, her eyes wide with urgency. "She's having a flux." "What the hell is a flux?" Asher bit out, his voice raw with a mix of panic and fury. "Magic instability," Isabella explained, her tone clipped. "The human realm has limited energy, but here magic is everywhere. Her body isn't used to this much of it, and her emotions are fueling it. The power is building uncontrollably. She needs to find balance, a release, before it consumes her." As Violet's magic surged even higher, they both knew the fallout would be catastrophic. For Asher, it was an echo of that day at the Pine Lodge when her powers first exploded. Only this time, it was 100 times stronger. The grand doors flew open, and soldiers poured into the room. Asher's head snapped toward them, every muscle in his body going rigid. He didn't like this one bit. But the Queen was already in command. "Build a barrier around us," she ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. All 5 soldiers responded in unison. They spread out into a perfect circle, their lips moving as they chanted in a language Asher didn't recognize. "What are you doing to her?" he demanded, taking a step forward, ready to tear them all apart to get to Violet. Before he could move, Alice appeared at his side, planting a hand on his chest to stop him.
"You have to trust Queen Isabella on this,"
she said, her voice strained.
"Trust her?"
Asher shot back, his glare venomous.
"She's the reason this is happening."
"And blaming her isn't going to fix anything right now,"
Alice snapped. Just then, the doors burst open again. Alaric Griffin and a pale, unsteady Roman stormed in, their bond with Violet having screamed her terror directly into their minds. They all froze, taking in the scene. Violet engulfed in pulsing dark magic, Queen Isabella standing before her, and the soldiers chanting as if their lives depended on it. What the hell was going on? Then, with a blinding shimmer, a transparent dome solidified around the Queen and Violet, sealing everyone else out. Inside, the Queen faced her daughter. "Violet," Isabella said calmly. "Breathe." Violet shook her head, her voice a hoarse rasp.
"I can't. It's choking me."
"Then that's all the more reason to try," the Queen said firmly. "You own this power, Violet. It does not own you. Follow my lead." Isabella took a slow, deliberate breath, her chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Violet tried to copy her, but each inhale felt like dragging shards of glass into her lungs. Still, she forced out one shaky breath, then another. "Good," Isabella whispered. "Again." Her voice was a calm anchor in the storm raging inside Violet. Outside the barrier, the Cardinal Alphas waited, coiled with a tense predatory energy. If anything happened to their mate, they would burn the unseen world to the ground. Back inside, the Queen continued her soothing rhythm. "You have too much magic inside you," she said softly. "It's overflowing. We're going to release the excess and keep only what you need." Violet managed a weak whisper. "How?" "Magic is in every part of you," Isabella explained. "In your blood, your bones, your very breath. Just as your body releases sweat through its pores, you can release magic the same way. You just have to open yourself up and let it go. Feel it leaving you." Violet squeezed her eyes shut, her entire body trembling. She pictured the thick, suffocating power churning inside her. "Let it go,"
the queen urged. Just a little at a time. But a sharp cry tore from Violet's lips as a bolt of pain shot through her. She tried to force it. Follow my lead, Violet, Isabella whispered again. Slow and steady. And just like that, shadows began to pour from her skin like ink bleeding into water, replaced by a soft, ethereal glow that matched her mother's. The queen's voice was a steady lullaby. That's it. Keep going, my daughter. Let it all out. And Violet did. With every exhale, more power streamed out of her until finally her knees gave out and her breathing evened out. When she opened her eyes, the shadows were gone. She felt light, lighter than she had been since the day her powers first awakened. How? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Isabella smiled, gently brushing a damp strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. Every fae learns to control their magic from birth. I'm so sorry, Violet, that you were never given that chance. Her voice was thick with a guilt that felt real. The soldiers lowered the barrier, and the moment they stepped out, Asher and the others rushed forward. Violet tried to meet them, but her legs buckled. Whoa, easy now, Alaric said, reaching her first and catching her before she hit the floor. His arms wrapped securely around her, his face tight with worry. She needs to be in bed, Isabella said firmly. I don't... Violet started to protest weakly, but Alaric wasn't listening. He adjusted his hold, lifting her into his arms as if she weighed nothing. We're leaving. He strode out of the hall without waiting for the queen's permission. Roman and Griffin fell into step on either side of him, their faces grim. Asher lingered for a half-second, his gaze locked on the queen. This conversation isn't over, he said, his voice a low promise. Isabella just watched him go. I wouldn't expect it to be. Only then did Asher turn, following his mates, his chest tight with a storm of emotions he refused to let show. Alaric carried Violet all the way to their room, ignoring her half-hearted protests. I'm fine, she mumbled stubbornly. You don't have to treat me like I'm made of glass. You heard your mother, Griffin said from behind them. The queen wants you on bed rest, and frankly, I'm not in the mood to argue with royalty. Alaric gently tucked the blanket around her shoulders, while Griffin fluffed the pillows behind her. Roman stood by the door, his arms crossed, a silent, watchful guardian. Just then, the door opened and Asher stepped inside. The atmosphere in the room immediately shifted. His eyes found Violet's, and the hard tension in his face softened. I'm so sorry, Violet whispered, the guilt heavy in her voice. You have nothing to be sorry for, Asher said, his tone turning hard again. None of this was your fault. It's the queen's. Roman let out a weary groan. Can someone just tell me what the hell happened out there? Asher's jaw clenched. She had a panic attack, and her powers made it 1,000 times worse. She's overflowing with magic, and nobody ever bothered to teach her how to control it. He punctuated the sentence by kicking a nearby chair, sending it crashing against the wall. All because of them! Asher. Griffin's voice was calm, but his gaze was sharp. Enough. She needs rest, not more of this. We can't stay here. Asher snapped, his voice rising. It's not safe. Alaric met his glare evenly. And we can't leave. She needs to be trained. To everyone's surprise, Roman was the one who spoke up. How about we argue about this later? Violet needs to sleep. That silenced the room. All eyes turned to her, and Violet wished she could disappear under the covers. She hated this feeling, this helplessness, like she was some fragile thing they all had to protect. After a long, tense moment, Asher let out a sharp exhale. He's right. Get some sleep, Violet. He leaned down, brushing a strand of hair from her face before turning for the door. One by one, they followed him out. But just before the door clicked shut, Violet saw the look that passed between them. They were definitely planning something. Standing in front of Principal Jameson's office, Lily took a deep breath.
There's nothing to be scared of. You didn't do anything wrong. We'll just answer her questions and we're out of here.
She gave herself a quick pep talk before finally working up the nerve to knock. "Come on in," Jameson's voice called from inside. Lily braced herself and stepped through the door. And there she was, Principal Jameson looking as prim and proper as ever, not a single hair out of place. You'd think after the massive scandal that just rocked Lunaris Academy, the woman would have been sent packing. But no. The cockroach had somehow managed to wriggle her way back into power by clinging to Violet's coattails. The PR team went into overdrive, spinning the whole human girl with 3 mates story until the public basically forgot about all the ugly stuff that had just happened. And it worked. Lunaris Academy was once again the top supernatural school every human girl was dying to get into. Everyone wanted to be the next Violet Purple. Even now, after it came out that Violet wasn't even human, nobody seemed to care. If anything, the school's popularity had exploded. How did Violet Purple become a werewolf, or whatever everyone thought she was? Rumors were already flying that Lunaris had a secret lab where they experimented on humans, turning them into werewolves. And instead of scaring people off, it just made them want to get in even more. The whole thing was insane. When Lily walked in, she definitely wasn't expecting Principal Jameson to have a visitor, and certainly not a familiar blue-eyed Luna.
"Luna Juliana," Lily said, bowing her head respectfully. "It's an honor."
"The pleasure is all mine, Lily."
Lily's eyebrows shot up. How did the Luna of the North Pack know her name? And why was she here? Lily wasn't stupid. She could already feel that something was wrong.
"Please have a seat,"
Jameson said, gesturing to the chair in front of her desk. Lily sat down carefully, hyper-aware of the Luna sitting beside her. Suddenly, this felt less like a meeting and more like an interrogation.
"I'm sure you're surprised to see me,"
Juliana said with a small, knowing smile.
"I am,"
Lily admitted, her curiosity getting the better of her.
"Is something wrong? Did something happen to Violet?"
The last she'd heard, her friend was in the north with Alaric, her son, after their mating bond had finally snapped into place. Since then, communication with Violet had pretty much died. With everything going on, keeping in touch was nearly impossible. Besides, Violet's phone hadn't been connecting for days, and the only updates Lily got were through the alphas or their betas, and that was only when she could even get a hold of them. Luna Juliana opened her mouth, like she was about to spin some lie, then paused. She let out a heavy sigh.
"Honestly, that's why I'm here."
A prickle of unease crawled down Lily's spine. She shifted in her seat.
"Why? What happened?"
she demanded, her voice tight.
"Violet and my son, they've disappeared."
"What?"
Lily shot up, stunned. She shook her head, unable to process it.
"What do you mean, they've disappeared?"
Juliana Storm watched the girl in front of her, satisfied. She already had Lily right where she wanted her. Leaning forward, she let her voice fill with emotion.
"To be honest, I was a bit hard on Violet. I'm sure you've heard the rumors, but the North Pack, we aren't used to interpack matings. Still, the goddess chose them, and I realize now I was wrong. I never should have stood in their way. And now I think Violet is punishing me by taking my son from me."
"No!"
Lily blurted out, way louder than she intended. Juliana blinked, feigning confusion.
"No?"
"No! Violet would never do that. Yeah, she's got a temper, and she's unpredictable, but she wouldn't go that far."
Lily stopped, catching herself.
"Unless what?"
Juliana pressed, her sharp gaze pinning Lily to her seat. Lily swallowed.
Unless she had to,"
she thought,
but she didn't dare say it out loud. Instead, she forced a small smile.
I'm just saying, Violet isn't that petty. Maybe they just went on vacation or something and didn't want to be disturbed. I've heard some mates do that, for their honeymoon.
Is that so? Juliana's tone was smooth, but her eyes narrowed, studying Lily. The girl's breathing had hitched just for a second. The Luna sensed it. Lily was starting to catch on, her guard going up. And more than that, she was hiding something. Juliana decided to drop the act. Her polite mask slipped. So you're telling me Violet hasn't contacted you at all?
No,
Lily said, her shoulders squared.
We haven't spoken in a while.
Not in a while, Juliana repeated, nodding slowly as she glanced at her phone. Well, you're telling the truth about that. Your phone records confirm it. Lily froze.
Excuse me?
Her voice cracked with disbelief.
You went through my phone records?
She shot to her feet, her face hot with anger. Principal Jameson quickly held up her hands, trying to de-escalate. I'm sorry, Lily, but this is an extremely serious matter.
That doesn't give you the right to go through my phone.
Lily cut her off, furious.
That's a complete invasion of my privacy.
As Lily's voice rose, Luna Juliana spoke a single name. Alice. The name sliced through Lily's anger like a knife. She froze mid-rant, the fire in her voice instantly extinguished. Juliana slowly lifted her chin, her icy blue eyes locking onto Lily. The room fell silent except for the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. Did you know her entire identity is a fake? Juliana asked coolly.
What?
Lily's eyes widened in genuine shock. The real Alice is dead, Juliana said flatly. Has been for years. Lily stammered.
That's impossible. She was right here with us. I had no idea.
Juliana watched her, taking in every flicker of emotion. I'm sure you didn't. Principal Jameson shook her head, looking completely lost. I don't understand how that girl slipped through our system. Our background checks are airtight. We'll launch an immediate investigation. She probably used magic, Juliana said, a dismissive, arrogant edge to her voice. It's the only thing that makes sense. She turned back to Lily, her tone rising again. And that's what makes this so suspicious. Of all the rooms in Lunaris Academy, why Violet's? Why that specific room? Lily swallowed hard.
We were all friends. Alice and Violet got along. Maybe it was just a coincidence.
She looked at Juliana innocently.
Or are you suggesting Alice targeted Violet?
Of course. Lily knew Alice had approached Violet on purpose. She was Violet's guardian, but she would never say that. Not after the oath she'd sworn. Juliana could put a knife to her throat and she wouldn't say a word. Juliana's eyes narrowed. While you were staying with this fake Alice, did you notice anything strange about her? Lily feigned confusion.
Like what?
Juliana sighed, the sound heavy with irritation, as if the whole conversation was beneath her. I think this Alice might have something to do with why Violet and my son are missing. For all we know, they could be in danger. Lily frowned.
But you said Violet disappeared with your son.
Juliana tilted her head, her expression unreadable. And you just told me Violet would never do something like that, didn't you? Lily hesitated.
Right. So why would you suddenly think Alice had something to do with it?
Juliana's lips curved into a smile that held no warmth. It's just the circumstances, she said smoothly. Besides, it's been reported that Alice took a leave of absence and hasn't been seen since. There's enough circumstantial evidence to suggest she's involved in whatever's going on. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Lily could feel Juliana's stare pressing down on her, searching for something. She wasn't giving up. Then Juliana leaned forward, her voice dropping to an almost gentle tone. "You're a smart girl, Lily. All I'm saying is, if you know something about this girl, even the smallest detail, it could help us find Violet." She paused, her face twisting into a mask of worry. "And my son." Silence hung in the air for a long moment. When Lily finally spoke, her voice was steady.
"No, ma'am. I don't know anything."
Juliana sat back, the warmth instantly gone from her face. "Thank you for your time, Lily," she said crisply. Lily nodded, her heart pounding.
"Thank you, ma'am."
Without waiting for a dismissal, Lily spun around and practically ran out of the office. She pushed the door shut behind her, her heart hammering against her ribs as she escaped into the hall, not daring to look back. What the hell was going on?